And like, there have been times after that where like, I really appreciated it when someone has been like, I think we need to set up boundaries. Okay, maybe we do need to unfollow each other. And even though those moments, I think they're hard and they hurt for maybe a couple days, you end up being thankful for it in the long run. Somewhere in Proverbs it says like, better are the wounds of a friend than the kisses of an enemy. I'm just holding in this animosity, you know, just for forever. And then you start acting in weird ways and then you start getting all toxic and stuff and you're like, I would never do such a thing, you know? Why did I do that? Why did I say that? Why did I think that? And it's like, oh, well, you played yourself. Let's say you have a friend who, you know, maybe, you know, some people say that they're toxic or they're ungrateful or they have a bad attitude, but you've been friends for maybe like 6, 8, 10 years. Like you've known this person since middle school and now you're in your 20s, you know, like that's kind of a hard, like, it sounds like you're saying, don't be friends with that person who's ungrateful or who, you know, I know that that might not be what you said expressly, but someone might hear that and be like, what, you mean I can't have like my homies, my slimes, my day ones? Like, what do you, I don't know. Like, is that?
I think, you know, I think that's something actually that God has been teaching me a lot this year of how much capacity are you giving those people when they're not being healthy in that season of life? And I think like, I actually just had a really hard situation with 2 different friends, one that's more recent, that was a church friend that we just were both going through some really heavy things this last year and recognized that together they compounded and created a really healthy environment for both of us. And we didn't talk about it. We didn't say anything about it. We just kind of distanced. And we came back together after maybe 6 months and said, look, we're both sorry, but like we needed that. And I think sometimes we feel like we don't have the capability to say, hey, we need to cut people out for a certain season or limit for a certain season. And yet I have another friend that we did acknowledge that, and we were friends in college, we were roommates in college, and it was a 3-year stretch where we barely talked. And now we're coming back to saying, okay, let's do life together again because we're in a healthier season to do that. And I think sometimes it's saying, maybe let's not do every day together. Maybe you're not one of my 12, but you're still in my outer circle. And yet, like, I think Christ set up such a cool environment of like, who are your 12? Who are your 3? And then who are your like wider circle? Because we can have a lot of people that we either follow or have following us. And yet, like, we need to be intentional about who our 12 are and who our 3 are. And I think that's a great model of sometimes those 12 can switch in and out in healthier seasons, but that doesn't mean they're not still part of the greater circle.
This is the part where you say, and here at Calvary, we have small groups.
Yes, I think that is hard though too. And sometimes you're like, oh man, like the individual I was talking about was in my small group. And it was something that as a leader, I had to say, is this the right space for both of us or
so
not?
So Jordan, if you're listening, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, so that said, I think there are circumstances, but I think being clear and communicating those things of, hey, this just seems hard right now. Can we either figure out a healthier way for both of us, or can we take a little bit more space away so that I can be healthy, you can be healthy, and make this a healthier relationship?
Yeah, that's a conversation that I think requires some pretty intense maturity.
And wisdom. I don't think it's a conversation you enter into without prayer, but and counsel, I think even too. But I think it's definitely something that.
Yeah, because I had a friend a while back who, and granted, like I was. Like when you're, young and we're all young, sorry. But when you're still figuring out like adulthood and stuff, and then, relationships, get thrown into the mix, there's debates, right? About like, do you unfollow your ex? Do you block someone, like if a relationship didn't work out? What if you were never dating, but you were just like, talking or whatever? Like, what do you do when you see this person on social media and stuff? And there was a season where I was in a place with someone from back in college where like, we were part of the same friend group and there were feelings involved and stuff. And I knew that for myself, every time I opened Instagram, because Instagram, it knows. It knows.
It always knows.
It pushes that person's stories to the front. They're like, you want to know what they're up to. You know. And I just knew that for a season, like I needed to unfollow that person, and it wasn't that like I didn't value that person's friendship. It wasn't that there was something wrong with her or anything like that. And again, we have the same group of friends still. And like one day, after we ended up making up and things were better, and I felt like our friendship got to a much healthier place. I remember we were planning like a worship retreat thing for one of our classes, and she was like, she mentioned something and I mentioned something. She's like, yeah, you would know if you still followed me. You unfollowed me like a couple months ago, and I was like, ooh, that's tough. But it was like, I could tell that she like was upset that I unfollowed her, but I didn't know how to have a conversation with that person. And like there have been times after that where like I really appreciated it when someone has been like, hey, like I think we need to set up boundaries, because of this situation or that one. Like, hey, maybe we do need to unfollow each other. And even though those moments, I think they're hard and they hurt for maybe a couple days, you end up being thankful for it in the long run. Whereas sometimes when you don't have that conversation, you end up carrying around hurt for like months on end. I would rather, somewhere in Proverbs it says like, like better are the wounds of a friend than the kisses of an enemy, or something like that. Like I'd rather have my friend hurt me today for my long-term benefit than for me to just, secretly be hurt by them for months, and then I'm just holding in this animosity, for forever. And then you start acting in weird ways and then you start getting all toxic and stuff. And you're like, I would never do such a thing. Why did I do that? Why did I say that? Why did I think that? And it's like, oh, well, you played yourself, AJ and Sabrina tried to tell you.
Yeah, I think to that too, I think something that I learned during that season of some of those harder relationships was I was reading a book completely unrelated about what it means to do life at a table with other people. Mm-hmm. And in the book, like this. And in the book, the author talks about how a dull knife hurts more than a sharp knife. And that's where sharpening iron comes in, is that if you try to cut something with a dull knife, it's only going to cause more pain, and the wound is only going to be worse. And so sometimes that hard conversation and sharpening that knife and just saying like, I'm going to have a clear conversation here, and cut it to the quick, because that's going to be in the long run, instead of months of pain and suffering and not really knowing even what the other person's thinking. I think sometimes it makes it so that you're focusing more on, okay, what can we do in the now? And let's rehash this conversation when one of us is in a healthier position as well. I think setting aside time to have some of those conversations of, this may just be for a month, or this may just be for this week. I just need to get through this week. And saying like, it's not forever. It's just, I need some of that distance to unfollow and unsubscribe to what you're going through. Can sometimes be healthier in the long run and not cause as many hard problems later down the road.
Totally.